There are good reasons to be optimistic about climate change.
Wind and solar power have become cheaper at a rate that's faster than expected.
But there are many reasons to feel a sense of urgency as well. Raising animals for food produces more greenhouse gases than cars, planes, and trains in the entire world combined.
The Paris Agreement set a target for the total emissions till 2050. And at the current pace, the emissions from agriculture alone will eat up our entire budget, without counting electricity, transportation, or industry.
So, a business as usual approach just cannot work. We have to start questioning what we eat and how that food reaches our plate.
In this video, we'll uncover the surprising ways that our food choices are driving climate change and deforestation.
In the end, we'll also conclude by questioning the impact we can have on the situation and how a mix of personal and policy level changes is the best way forward.
We'll first start with land use and deforestation. This study of land use by Hannah Ritchie has had a profound impact on me. And I think this is one of the greatest pieces of data journalism out there. So let's dive right into it. Out of the total surface area on planet Earth, 71% is ocean and 29% is land. And out of all the land, only 76% is habitable. And out of all the habitable land, 45% is agricultural land, 38% is forest cover, 13% is shrubland, 3% is rivers, and just 1% accounts for all the urban areas put together. This was the first mind blowing observation for me. When we think of the planet and human intervention, the picture of the city with its tall buildings and traffic is what first comes to mind. But all this urbanity accounts for just 1% of all the habitable land. We use 50 times the area to feed ourselves. The real issue lies in how the agricultural land is being used. 67% is for animal livestock and 29% is for crops. This gets really eye-opening when you realize that the livestock provide just 17% of the global calorie supply. And the crops account for 83%. To top it all off, a big chunk of the crops we grow are actually for livestock consumption. So it should be counted towards livestock land use. So the final numbers are just jarring in every way. 16% of the agricultural land that grows food crops for humans accounts for 83% of our calories. Another way of looking at it is this. Currently, 2 football fields feed one person. That same land could feed 14 people on a plant based diet. This could free up more than 80% of agricultural land to be returned to the forests. The story of expanding farm use and deforestation go hand in hand. As farms expand, forests shrink. And so do wild shrublands and grasslands. Animal agriculture has a massive land footprint and is the biggest industry leading to deforestation. Before turning vegan, I loved North Indian kebabs. As we grew up, it was a treat. It was something that we'd have once in a while. But with time, it became more affordable, so we'd have it more and more often. And obviously, this felt really great. But the true cost of this cheap factory produced meat was clearly hidden. The destruction of forests and the atrocities committed to these animals, this is something that we cannot see from our tiny urban bubble. But it feels like we must find a way to see beyond our bubble and see these costs, see the truth of how our food is made. Because the harmful aspects are very real, the data bears this out. And I really hope, dear viewer, that you can start seeing it too. Okay, that was quite serious. So let's move on to something different. You've heard of city sewage, and you've probably smelt it too. But you won't believe the way that sewage is managed on factory farms. First, there's the shocking scale of it. The farmed animal population in the US creates 13 times the waste of the human population. And unlike city sewage, which is treated, factory farms just collect this poop in large lagoons or spray it over the fields. During heavy rains, these poop lagoons tend to break or overflow, And while spraying manure has benefits, the scale is so insane that the land can fail to absorb it. In places without strict regulation, the waste is just dumped straight into nearby rivers or streams. So, why don't they just properly treat the sewage like you would do in a city? Well, you guessed it. It's too expensive. And this is where you can see that the money cost of meat and dairy does not reflect its true cost. So, what we are left with is actual lakes and rivers and streams of poop. It's quite unnerving to know that this is where our food comes from. But all this poop talk is actually a great way to segue to our next chapter: greenhouse gases. We all burp and fart, even you, dear listener. And it's kind of funny and cute how secretive we are about these essential acts. But the scale of animal farming takes this essential thing and makes it a truly frightening prospect. Methane is produced in the stomachs of farmed animals, and this gas is 28 times as harmful as carbon dioxide in terms of emissions. This is one of the major reasons why agriculture contributes 24% of all emissions, more than all modes of transportation put together. And emissions from agriculture alone will come close to exceeding the total limit of emissions set for 2050. This limit is for all the major contributors put together, so agriculture cannot be ignored. And if we start looking at how much of the emissions come from animal farming, just like land use, it is an incredible reality. Animal farming contributes twice as many emissions as crop farming, all while contributing to only 20% of the calorie intake of the world. Animal farming is shockingly inefficient in terms of land use, but also in terms of emissions. Another interesting way of looking at this is to see the emissions required to obtain 100 grams of protein from different sources. As you can see, meat is just off the charts. But poultry, fish, and even dairy are all significantly more inefficient than plant based sources of protein like tofu, pulses, and nuts. Animal farming is shockingly inefficient in how it produces calories and even protein in terms of land use, but also in terms of emissions.
The first step to solving a problem is acknowledging it. But with climate change, what we eat is the problem. Because food is so tied to culture and emotions, it's hard to accept it. It challenges thousands of years of norms. This was our journey too. We understood the data and the moral implications long before we went vegan. It took time and it wasn't easy, but today it makes us happy and proud.
So, we encourage you to start by considering the problem. And the first step is to do your own research. We ask Google and ChatGPT about every strange and weird thing. But most of us avoid this topic because food is so personal and primitive. Start your research today. You can start small. Every step counts, and just one plant based meal a day makes a big difference.
Small steps lead to big environmental impacts. It's about progress and not perfection.
In fact, most food cultures were primarily built on plant based nutrition. So you will have loads of inspiration in terms of what to cook or what to eat.
This is not a battle between vegans and non vegans. It's a battle for the future of the planet. A battle for the billions of beings who are subjected to things we cannot even imagine. And we are all in this together. We recently watched a video about climate change, and the argument went something like this.
Our personal impact is tiny in comparison to the impact of policies. So it's the policies that need changing, not us. We found this very interesting because we too believe that the most significant change happens at global policy level.
But the tone of the video felt strange. It almost felt like personal behavior does not matter. Our personal choices and advocacy at grassroots level is what makes movements happen. That's what puts pressure on the regulators to create regulation. If there is no work at personal level, there will be no pressure and there will never be any change.
There are a couple of analogies here that come to mind to reveal how this logic might trap us in an irrational behavior. For scale, we can compare it to voting. We could easily believe that our single vote does not matter. So let's just not vote because our impact is so tiny. For efficiency, we could compare it to this YouTube channel. I could say, let me not make any content now because we have less followers. Let's be efficient. We'll make the impactful content only when we have the subscribers. But then we are stuck exactly where we are and end up doing nothing.
So, this might be bad news for some of us, but we honestly believe that personal effort is vital, especially now when there's so much convincing to do. Our actions and our voices are critical to convincing humanity that this is something serious that we all need to figure out together. Ultimately, regulation should do its thing and our choices should happen within the framework. But you don't get there without putting in the work.